Today we embark on a journey through history. In the north of Africa, we will witness the story of a country that was oppressed under the shadow of the French Empire, yet fought valiantly for its independence. Algeria. Once colonized by the French, its people enslaved, its culture suppressed, and its identity nearly erased. In 1830, the French began their invasion of Algeria under the pretext of a minor dispute. The pretext was a diplomatic slight, a fly-whisk incident involving the Ottoman ruler of Algiers. But the true reasons were far deeper, woven into the fabric of power, politics, and pride. This was not a visit, it was an invasion. The conquest began with the fall of Algiers. A city that had for centuries been a vibrant hub of culture and trade was brought to its knees. The French forces, armed with superior technology and a ruthless determination, pushed inward from the coast. Their mission was not merely to defeat an army but to subjugate a land. Once the cannons fell silent, a quieter, more insidious conquest began. This was the colonization of the land itself. This land was then offered, often for free or at very low prices, to European settlers, the colons or pieds noirs. The best land, the most productive farms, were taken from the Algerians and handed to the newcomers. For generations, Algerian society had been structured around the land. It was the source of sustenance, the basis of community, and the repository of history and identity. Islamic schools were closed or marginalized, replaced by a French educational system designed to create a compliant, assimilated elite. Mosques were converted into churches, traditional legal systems were replaced by the French civil code, and even the names of towns and streets were changed to honor French heroes and victories. They were subjected to a separate and unequal legal status, known as the Code de l'Indigénat, which stripped them of their rights as citizens and subjected them to arbitrary punishment. But a spirit cannot be so easily extinguished. In the quiet of their homes, in the stories passed from parent to child, the memory of what was lost and the dream of what could be was kept alive. In the face of overwhelming force, it is often a single individual who becomes the vessel for a people's will to survive. For Algeria, that individual was Emir Abd el-Qadir. When the French began their relentless push into the interior, it was he who rose to unite the disparate tribes of western and central Algeria. In 1832, he was declared their leader, their emir. He did not see this as a fight for territory alone, but as a sacred duty, a jihad to defend his faith, his people, and his homeland from the invaders. For over 15 years, he waged a masterful guerrilla war against one of the most powerful armies in the world. He used his intimate knowledge of the rugged terrain to his advantage, launching swift, surprising attacks and then melting back into the mountains and deserts. He was more than a commander. He was the founder of a nascent Algerian state. He established a capital, minted his own currency, collected taxes, and built factories to produce weapons. Under commanders like Thomas Bugeaud, they employed scorched earth tactics, which they called enfumades. They burned villages, destroyed crops, and slaughtered livestock to starve the resistance into submission. In one infamous tactic, entire tribes, including women and children who had taken refuge in caves, were systematically suffocated by fires lit at the entrances. After years of relentless struggle with his state in ruins and his people facing starvation, Abd el-Qadir surrendered in 1847. After the fall of Abd el-Qadir, a heavy silence descended upon Algeria. The colonial system became deeply entrenched. The million European settlers enjoyed all the rights of French citizens, while the 9 million Muslim Algerians were treated as subjects, not citizens. Any sign of dissent was met with swift and disproportionate force. Despite the immense pressure, the Algerian identity refused to die. It survived in the family, in religious practices, and in the oral traditions that preserve the memory of a different time. Islamic reformist scholars like Sheikh Ben Battus founded associations to revive Arabic language and culture, coining the powerful slogan, "Islam is my religion, Arabic is my language, Algeria is my homeland." At the same time, early political figures like Ferhat Abbas argued for equality and integration, believing that Algerians could become French citizens in a truly republican France. The Second World War was a crack in the foundation of the old colonial world. Many Algerians fought and died for France, believing their sacrifice would earn them the rights they had so long been denied. On May 8, 1945, the very day Europe celebrated victory over Nazism, French forces massacred thousands of Algerians who were demonstrating for independence in the towns of Sétif and Guelma. From the ashes of this disillusionment, a new, more radical movement was born. It was the National Liberation Front, or FLN. Its leaders were young, determined men, many of whom were veterans of the French army, who now turned their military skills against their former masters. The first shots of that war were fired on November 1, 1954. In a coordinated series of attacks across Algeria, a date now known as Toussaint Rouge or Red All Saints' Day, the FLN announced its existence to the world. Militarily, its armed wing, the ALN, would wage a guerrilla war against French forces. The French government, refusing to acknowledge the reality of a colonial war, called it an operation to maintain public order. It poured hundreds of thousands of troops into Algeria, determined to crush the rebellion at any cost. The use of systematic torture became widespread. Algerian suspects were subjected to horrific abuse in detention centers to extract information about the FLN's networks. The infamous Battle of Algiers in 1957 saw French paratroopers use these brutal methods to dismantle the FLN's urban network, a temporary military victory that was a profound moral and political defeat. Yet, the Algerian people showed a resilience that seemed almost superhuman. For every fighter killed, another seemed to rise and take their place. For every village destroyed, the will to resist only hardened. Peasants in the countryside, intellectuals in the cities, and women who played a crucial role as messengers, nurses, and even combatants, all became part of the struggle. As the war raged on, it could no longer be hidden from the world. The FLN waged a brilliant diplomatic campaign, sending representatives to the United Nations and to newly independent countries. The instability created by the war led to the collapse of the French Fourth Republic and the return to power of Charles de Gaulle in 1958. In March 1962, after long and difficult negotiations, the Evian Accords were signed. The agreement called for a ceasefire and a referendum on self-determination. The vote, held in July 1962, was a foregone conclusion. An overwhelming majority of Algerians voted for independence. On July 5, 1962, exactly 132 years to the day after the French invasion, Algeria was finally a free and sovereign nation. The celebrations were euphoric, a massive release of joy and relief. The war had cost over 1 million Algerian lives and displaced millions more. The new nation had to build a state, an economy, and a society from scratch, all while healing the deep wounds of war. Yet what Algeria achieved remains a monumental testament to the human spirit. Its story is a powerful reminder echoing across the universe that no empire is eternal and no people can be oppressed forever. It is a symbol of hope for all who struggle against the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of resilience.